What a week it's been. Think about this week and what's gone on this week. Well, I know. We were all planning Thursday to party like it was 1985, but still, look what the Royals brought to us this past week. I mean, they brought this community together like this community has not been in a very, very, very long time. I am going to make an appointment with them for after the first of the year, though, because if they're going to be in the World Series again, we have to make other fall faith arrangements. We've had exciting things going on here in this ministry. As Tom announced with candidate changes, we've got Nancy Rostaglio coming in just 2 weeks. And then Brandon has moved up his tryout date, so he'll be November 23rd. And we want to bless James Parker, Reverend Parker. He's withdrew his resume from us for whatever reasons he had. I do know that he is a final candidate in Hawaii. They don't have the Royals. What we're about to do is not for the faint of heart. It's not about sticking your toe in the water. It's about running full speed, bringing your knees up to your chest, and diving in. And these were the words that I used to open Fall Faith when we began so many weeks ago. And some of you have taken the plunge. You really got into these teachings that Eric Butterworth in his book Spiritual Economics has shared with us. You've dared to move your prosperity to a whole new level. You've jumped into the deep end of the pool. Some of you have gone forth and you've declared your independence from all of the influences of the outside world, all the noise that you hear outside of yourself. Some of you have made the commitment to listen deeply into the silence behind the noise, to truly center your awareness on a deeper way of living. Over the weeks, we've talked about commitments and making commitments. We talked about being in sacred service, being volunteer, going forth and volunteering. Last week, Brandon talked to you about sharing of your talents. We had that Sunday when we talked about giving thanks in the crap. All the crap of life, and you've taken it to heart, and your prosperity is changing. No matter what's going on in your life, you become aware that it's bigger than that. It's about spiritual growth and spiritual unfoldment. When you've been meeting obstacles, when you've had lack and limitation, we've talked to you about making sure you open yourself to the flow. As Eric Butterworth says, when you're in those time periods when things are just stopping on you, that something's got to give. And so we remember those words of Eric, something's got to give. Eric also shared these words with us. He said, when you discover the wonder of giving, you become unblushingly an incurable giver. Meditate long on this point, for what it is one of the most important keys to the prosperity law. If you give, really work in a giving consciousness, you must receive. Now, it's an interesting statement, you must receive. He doesn't say you should receive, you might receive, oh, maybe you'll receive. He says you must receive. You must receive. It requires a couple things to receive your good. Are you ready to receive your good? Yes. Okay. For those of you who are ready to receive your good, it requires a really giving consciousness, a moving into the consciousness of giving. It requires that you open your hearts to receive. We also have to be good receivers. We had a staff meeting a few weeks ago, and Fred was there. Fred uses a very particular pen when he takes notes. So Fred was there, and he turned to one of the staff members and gave them the pen, and the staff member thanked him. He said, well, it's yours to keep. And the staff member said, no, I can't take your pen. We have to be open to receiving. And Fred said, no, just say thank you and take the pen. Be open to receiving your good. Say thank you and receive your good. So you've got to move into a consciousness of giving. You've got to open your heart to receiving. And if you're experiencing lack and limitation in your life right now, we have small groups. We have small groups that are doing everything around here. We have a small group that's focused on prosperity. And if you'd like to join in this group, there's information in your bulletin about how to join with this group to increase prosperity in your own personal life. So you've shared some of the amazing things that have been going on in your life. The stories that I've heard are so amazing. Some people would call them incredible, but I think they're very credible. You see, when you move into the spiritual depths of your being, things are no longer incredible, they are very credible. A few weeks ago we said, you don't need miracles in your life, you just need to let go and trust in God. There's an affirmation card in your bulletin today that says, I trust in God. Or you can take your wallet out and look at the back of a dollar bill or a 5, a 10, a 50, 100, 1,000, whatever it is you carry there. And it says, I trust in God. I trust in God. So you've made commitments to change, to be in service, to share your talents. And here we are the last 2 weeks of this series. And this week and next, we're going to discuss commitments at a different level. We're going to discuss commitment to this ministry. And I want you to hear it. This is bigger than that. It's not just commitment to this ministry. It's bigger than that. It's commitment to a greater, better way of life. For many, many years, Unity shied away from commitment. I was born into Unity. I have parents who are Unity ministers. And Unity said, you don't need to make commitment. Just come to church. No commitment required. And for many, many years, Unity said, you want to be a member? Raise your hand. You're a member. No commitment required. And then we awakened to the truth. We studied the works of our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They required commitment. We listened to Mary Omwake. Remember Mary Omwake? She spoke to commitment every Sunday. Reverend Patricia talked about commitment and the importance of commitment. So Unity has really changed in its approach, or we've gone back to our roots in our approach. It's all about commitment. This book, Spiritual Economics, is all about commitment. It's about a commitment to go deeper in your life than you have ever gone before, to be in service, to share your talents, and to share your resources. So here we are. We have this T3 program. You've seen the promotion for T3. You've seen the pins that we're wearing, T3. You've seen the T3 logo on lots and lots of things. So we have talked about commitment to time and talent. And today we're going to talk about the commitment to treasure. We're going to talk a bit about tithing. But before I do so, I want to move to those thrilling days of yesteryear. That's something that happened here in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning. So let's watch the screen.
Hey guys, I just don't know what more we can do to get the congregation excited about prosperity.
Well, they really like the videos and the quotes we've been sharing with them so far. I really think they get it, that prosperity comes in all shapes and sizes, and that when you're prayed up, prosperity can be recognized everywhere.
Yeah, so what's something new and exciting that we can do to get them excited about prosperity? What about how you create your own prosperity through tithing?
That's a good idea, but isn't that kind of old hat for Unity people now? I mean, don't we all know? Don't we all know that tithing leads to abundance and prosperity? I think they already know that.
Well, I think we need to reach them in an unexpected way. Well, we need to shake it up a little bit.
What's she talking
She
about?
talks to me.
Mix.
Shake it up.
Hey,
Shake it.
leave it to me. I've got teenagers. I think I know what's cool. I think they do it something like this. ills. Money comes in and goes right back out. I know you know what I'm talking about. My hubby just keeps cranking up the heat, and 3 times a day, my kids want to eat. Sprinkler.
But listen up now to what I've got to say. What I do every Friday when I get my pay. Before I buy the groceries or pay the rent, I've gotta give God his full 10%. He gives me 100, I give back 10, and I'm blessed all day from beginning to end. Birthday!
Well, I ain't got a clue what tomorrow will bring, but I know who's the giver of all good things. He's got the 411 on all of my needs. God's got it all covered, so it ain't up to me. I give it straight off the top. That's the way it's gotta be. And everything's good between God and me.
Oh yeah!
Hey, girl, look. It's the master of the mic, Reverend B.O.B.
When I say 100, you say 10. 100. 100.
10.
When we say 100, you say 10. 100.
100. It ain't complicated. Let me give you a hint. A tithe ain't nothing but 10%.
I may not be the sharpest gal in the joint, but I know how to move a decimal point.
Because that's how I roll. I'm a grateful child. I'm a farmer's dog. Every time.
Now that's how you do it. You can't say God's money fast and loose. So where's your heart? Just follow the cash. I'm storing mine up in a heavenly stash.
God gives 100. God say 100, you say 10. 100. 100. When we say 100, you say 10. 100. 100. We say 100, you say 10. 100. 100. Now, you say 10. 100. 100. 10. Oh, I hope Nancy Rostaglio doesn't watch this. We tried to get everybody back again to do it, but nobody would, so. So tithing. We do talk about this every once in a while. You know, if you read Eric's book on tithing, you understand that he really doesn't support tithing. Well, he does support tithing. Well, he doesn't really. Well, he sort of supports tithing. He talks about the history of tithing, and it's an interesting history. You understand that during the time of the Hebrew Testament, the time that was written, the government was a religious form of government. It's called a theocracy. And tithing was how they collected their revenues. So everybody was required to give 10%. It was a tax. It was a tax. It's even practiced in countries today around the world. When last time we went to visit my wife's relatives in Germany, they knew I was a unity minister, so they took me to every church ever created in Germany. And after 20 or so, they all look about the same. But Dietmar, the one cousin, kept saying, "Okay, Bob, so how do you raise money for your ministry?" And I said, "Well, it's the gifts and tithes and love offerings from the congregation." He said, "Okay. So how do you actually raise the money for the ministry?" And I said, "Well, it's the gifts, the tithes, the love offerings that come from the congregation." He said, "Well, okay, but really, really, how do you get the money? And I said, well, Dietmar, how do you get money for your churches? And he said, there's a tax. We have to pay a tax, an income tax. And it goes either to the Lutheran church or the Catholic church, depending on which church you belong to. And if you're Catholic, if you haven't paid the tax, you can't receive communion. And I guess there are several countries that are like that tithing is truly a tax. So what did Jesus say about tithing? He really didn't say very much. It was pretty much a common practice in those days. And his message was different. He said it's about something bigger than tithing. His message was one of giving. You give not because you have to. You give because you want to. It's being in the consciousness of giving that Eric Butterworth talks about. Eric says that tithing is a great spiritual discipline that moves you into a consciousness of giving. It's a great spiritual discipline. And he said, but you want to move to that point of giving where you just give so that you can give so that you can give some more. So I know there's skeptics out there saying, Bob, you're just trying to raise money for the church. Absolutely I am. I mean, sure, we've got to pay electric bills just like we do, and Fred said he does want to get regular paychecks, so, and all of our staff have agreed with that. We want to be able to do that. We want to pray for no snow this winter. If we have snow that we have to clear the parking lot, it costs us between $500 and $1,000 every single time we have to clear that parking lot for the snowplow and the chemicals. So yeah, we have expenses that we need to cover here in this ministry. But it's bigger than that. It's absolutely bigger than that. This book, Spiritual Economics, it doesn't say spiritual economics for the church. It's spiritual economics for us as individuals, how we can increase our own prosperity consciousness. It's how we as individuals move into this consciousness of giving so that we can be open and receptive to receiving. Okay, I want us to try an experiment. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to take a breath and hold it. Okay, you ready? Let's just take a breath and hold it. And you haven't let it go ahead and let it go now. You've just experienced the law of prosperity. The law of prosperity. To live life, you have to inhale and you have to exhale. You have to receive and you have to give. I had somebody at the 9 o'clock service came to me and they said, they work a lot with breath work. And they said the most important part of breath work is the exhale, cleaning out all of that bad air in the bottom of your lungs. So, I don't know if you have bad air in your life. I don't know if you're going through experiences of lack and limitation in your life in any way, shape, or form. Just remember, prosperity is about breathing in and breathing out. And if you don't breathe out, it becomes very uncomfortable. When I was in high school, I remember being at home one weekend, and all of a sudden there was this banging on our front door. And so we rushed, we opened the door, and it was our neighbor, and she was absolutely screaming at us. And she said, our baby has stopped breathing. And so we ran over to her house. I was in high school, there weren't cell phones there. And I do assure my daughter we had electricity, but, we ran over there, we called emergency, and they said, fill the kitchen sink with cold water. So we filled the kitchen sink with cold water. And they said, put the baby in it. And we put the baby in the cold water, and the baby let out a scream like you wouldn't believe. And everything was fine. The baby had forgotten how to breathe and needed to be shocked into it. Sometimes life is like that for us. Sometimes we are shocked into experiences in our life that we don't want. And it's a reminder that something's got to give, that we've got to move into a whole different awareness in life. And so in your bulletin, you're going to find a beautiful T3 brochure. It's a brochure about giving. It's called The Power of Commitment. And in the brochure, there is a commitment card, and we're asking you please not to fill out the commitment card today. But it's about committing. It's about committing in your time, your talent, and your treasure. We're asking you to commit of your time to be in service, whether you be in service here or somewhere else. As I shared with you a few weeks ago, my wife volunteers. She works for a breast cancer organization, and she volunteers at school. She's giving her time in another capacity, just sharing it, going forth and touching the world in which she lives. If you want to volunteer at the church, we have a lot of wonderful opportunities here. We're making a bulletin board downstairs, which is going to be listing all the volunteer areas that you can be in service here. We have, how many of you go downstairs and have refreshments after the service? Yeah, we have to have somebody to pick those refreshments up. And so we call it the donut team. And by the way, there are a ton of donuts down there today. We call it the donut team. And we need people to go and pick these up at the Hy-Vee, which donates them to us at 87th and Flum, and bring them here to the church. If you're interested in doing something like that, see Rachel Asbury. Look at some of the other volunteer activities. Speaking of the donut team, you know what we do with those leftovers when you're all gone? They're given to charity. All the leftover bakery items, we have people who pick them up and they send them out to Catholic Charities and Salvation Army and other places where people are needing food. So we're giving those forth. So be in service. Be in service. Talent. Last week, Reverend Brandon talked about sharing talent. He talked about the Renovate to Elevate team. I just applaud this small team of people. And this team has gone forth, and as Brandon said last week, they worked on a couple of homes. They worked on this one home where they helped paint window trim. They installed a new garage door because all they had on the garage was a piece of plywood. They couldn't get into the garage. I just applaud the work that they've done. The other house where Floyd has Alzheimer's and Gloria, who has a second bout of cancer, they went and they worked on this house to help them with their utility bills. The small group of people sharing talent, sharing their talent. And I absolutely applaud what you are doing. Some of you have talents in other area. Remember Brian Bass. All you remember Brian? He always sat back there or there or there or there. Reverend Patricia's husband. Do you know that Brian is an Excel wizard? And we use Excel spreadsheets in a lot of what we do here. And you try to connect these Excel spreadsheets together so that if you change one on this one, it will automatically change the one over here. I don't know if any of you have ever tried that. It took me like 2 weeks to figure out how to do that. I called Brian up 15 minutes. He shared his talent with this ministry. And I could call him today and he would be here in a second sharing his talent. I don't know what talent you have, perhaps being a mentor to somebody. Just become aware of your talent. In the card, you're going to see that we actually have a place where it talks about sharing your talents. And it says, I'd like to be in a talent directory for UCOP as a resource to congregants. We have congregants come to us all the time and they'll say, I need to have some plumbing done. I need a new roof. I need such and such. And I'm willing to pay for it, but I would like it to go to somebody here at Unity Church of Overland Park. So we're thinking about putting a business directory together. So if you want to share your talent, fill this out. Fill this out. And your treasure. Let's talk about the sharing of treasure. Talk about financial commitment. You're going to give anyway. You give on Sunday mornings. Figure out what you give in a year. Put it down on there. Do I want you to commit to 10%? Do I want you to do a tithe? Absolutely. If you want to. It's great. I really, honestly, I don't care. I honestly don't care. If you want to do less, that's fine. I don't care. How big a breath do you want to take in your life? You want to take a big breath? You want to take a small breath? Doesn't matter to me. You want to put a dollar amount? Put a dollar amount. What's this going to do for the ministry? It helps us budget. What's it going to do? It's going to change your life. Absolutely change your life. You do it because you want to do it. We're not saying you have to do this. The important thing is to commit to giving in some way. So what's going to happen? You fill out this commitment card, and we're asking that you pray about this over the week. Bring it next week with you because we're going to have a commitment Sunday. Are we going to call you and hound you about your commitment? Of course not. We don't work that way. This is about your growth. It's between you and God. So what's going to happen next week? Next week, we got a very special service planned. We're going to ask that you fill out the commitment card if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to. We're going to have baskets up here where you can come and put your commitment card in the basket saying, yes, you're making a commitment to your personal growth and unfoldment. And if you make that kind of commitment in these 3 areas, you're going to get one of the T3 pins that we've been wearing. If you come next Sunday and decide not to make a commitment, that's fine. We're going to have a gift for you anyway. We have a special gift for everybody who is going to be here next Sunday, because this is a giving ministry, and we want to live what we're sharing with you. We want to give a gift to you. So every single person is going to be receiving a gift, and every single person who fills out the card will receive a T3 pin saying you have made a commitment to your spiritual growth and to your spiritual unfoldment and to this ministry. You know where you can get the kids involved? We have different commitments for them. You know, we have commitments like, I don't remember what they are, being a joy in life. Yeah, Brandon, go ahead. Can we turn on Brandon's mic?
I'll just
Yeah,
stand
come on
up.
up.
Yeah. So next week, the kids will have an opportunity to commit to being a presence of God for their classroom, for their friends, being the presence of God in their community, and shining their Christ light in all things. So the kids all the way up through the Uniteens will get the chance to make that commitment, and then our YOU will get the chance to make the same commitment that all of you are getting the chance to make. When the kids make the commitment, they won't get the T3 pin like this. We're making special T3 buttons for them that all of them will make. And then they'll have a chance to have that commitment honored as well next week in Sunday school.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So Fall Faith is truly about commitment. We hope to see you next Sunday for this very special, wonderful service. But I want to close with these words from Eric Butterworth. He's talking about a passage found in the book of Malachi. And in the book of Malachi, it says, give of your whole tithe. And when you give of your whole tithe, I will open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. The whole tithe, time, talent, and treasure. And Eric says, you are the windows of heaven. You are the blessing that's being poured out. And because you are in a flow of limitless substance by reason of your commitment to the whole tithe, time, talent, and treasure, the blessing that you become is more than sufficient to deal with any situation and to meet any and all requirements. So I invite you to think, how big a breath do you want to take this week? What kind of commitment do you want to make? And God bless you all.